It is. Okay, perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Pareene is joining us right now. So first of all, I just got to say, I don't know if you saw the earlier message I sent you back in like February, but I am a huge fan of yours. I think your takes are very good. You have very good takes. You post
Thank you.
only the correct takes all the time. So
I'm proud of my takes, so I'm glad you appreciate it.
Even though you totally you totally never responded to my DMs, which is fine. My thirsty DMs of saying like, Alex, please come on the show. I'd love to have you on. I'm very excited to have you here. And I am like to show you my nerd credentials. I told you in the DMs as well that like I loved listening to the Tarfu report.
Cool. Thank you.
I was a big fan. Like, so I'm a OG fan.
Yeah,
I guess.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, like you like Alex Pareene. Name 5 of his takes. Type of fan. So thank you for coming on. And I always also love whenever you're on Uncle Sam's Majority Report, of course. For those of you who don't know in the audience, Majority Report is a great show as well. Hold on. If you are unfamiliar with that, you should go check them out too. And Alex, of course, is a staff writer for the New Republic. The New Republic is where Osita writes as well. You guys already know Osita because he comes on all the time. So Alex, thank you for coming on now that I'm done simping. And thank you for taking the time out of your day.
Of course.
I want to get started with one of your takes that I constantly talk about, which is, I think it was in the 2018 midterm election when a bunch of these really progressive ballot measures were passing all around the Midwest, or was it in 2016? I can't remember. I think it was in 2018 though, when you said, it turns out the most successful candidate in the Midwest and all around the South is just a faceless, lifeless ballot measure, not associated with any Democratic Party representative. Something along those lines. It is totally true, and we saw literally that exact thing happen in Florida with a 23-point lead for raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, which got more votes than either party's candidate. So you were correct
by a huge margin. Yeah,
a huge margin.
People definitely want. I mean, I don't know. People. This is the thing I was in the process of writing up when you tweeted at me. So hopefully, look for this take on the New Republic tomorrow in a more extended form. But like, when you did you see those Fox News exit polls everyone was sharing around like 6 or 7 p.m. last night that were everyone was like laughing at them, and it's like, like overwhelming majorities of people were like, I would like government funded healthcare. And I would like more government in our lives. And I mean, it's like people are craving social democracy, basically. But the people who ostensibly they just hate the politicians most associated with that tendency in the United States. As individuals, they just reject them.
That's not even entirely true, though, is it? Like, especially when you look at AOC or when you look at even Ilhan Omar, who and Rashida Tlaib, and of course the most famous and the most loved senator Bernie Sanders. People like those politicians as well. They just hate the Democratic Party. They just hate Democratic Party's establishment representatives who carry themselves in horrible ways, if you ask me. And I don't even think that they are truly interested in pushing that sort of progressive social democratic reforms. They don't want to do it. And I think that's part of the reason why they are hated and despised. And also the media carries water for that too. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, and I think the media point is one that we're really going to have to grapple with a lot after this. Because, with the minimum wage in particular, I mean, Joe Biden represents a lot of those tendencies you were talking about. But at the presidential debate, Joe Biden had an argument with President Donald Trump about the minimum wage, where Joe Biden was like, I want a $15 minimum wage. He did the thing we were begging him to do, albeit briefly, where he just took a material concern of the voters. I think he probably should have been doing a lot more of that. But, when people went to vote in Florida, they had a guy who went on TV and said, I support a $15 minimum wage. And they were like, no, thanks. But we would like the $15, please.
Yeah, I mean, this is like real, like freshman I just freshman college, college freshman. I just read Noam Chomsky, Manufacturing Consent Level of Takes.
Yeah.
But the media is truly an arm of the capital. Like they do
Yeah.
defend capital interests. We saw this with the way that they are, with the way that they just absolutely despised Bernie Sanders or tried to eviscerate him every step they could, even by utilizing the morally bankrupt fact checking industry. Where they would just find any reason they can to just eviscerate Bernie Sanders' policy proposals, and sometimes even omit information, like, for example, the fact that a public option, despite the fact that I am in support of the public option because it's still more expansive than what we have currently as far as healthcare coverage goes, is going to be more expensive than Medicare for all. If you have Obamacare, which is going to be demonstrably more expensive than Medicare for all, and then also on top of Obamacare, you have the public option, that is the most expensive proposal. And the fact that they never talked about that during the primaries and only covered how horrible the Medicare for all would be for Americans is yet another example of this.
Yeah, and the mainstream media covers policy horribly, especially when it has anything to do with left-wing policy. And I think large part of that is because, it's to get very vulgar Marxist, it's in the class interests of the sort of people who rise to the top of the elite media to, reject those sorts of politics. But I think even at a level far beyond that, I think normal people are just not, it's like normal people are not receiving like any good political messaging from any sources, and I think that's happening for a lot of reasons. I think like the sort of monopoly of social media, and in particular Facebook, over how information is distributed has done a tremendous amount of harm to like just how normal people are processing who is in favor of what in an election or at any other time.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at if you are to believe pollsters, maybe not on forecasting and election results, but if you are to look at polling data, the average American is infinitely more progressive than the Republicans that advocate for certain horrific reactionary policy proposals, so much so that even the average Republican voter does not believe them when asked about the consequences of those policy proposals because they're so insanely cruel and unusual. But the average American is even more progressive than the average Democratic politician. I mean, look, 70% of Americans believe in a pathway to amnesty for undocumented immigrants. This number goes up and down, certainly, but that's so different than what you would hear. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that the immigration numbers are really surprising because that's been trending towards more accepting of immigration for a few years now in this political climate, which is remarkable. But it goes to something too where very centrist Democrats who favor very modest policy proposals will frequently use polling as a way to shoot down more ambitious things. But it really is like it's reflective of the fact that they do. Ryan Cooper has written about this, and I wrote about it years ago. But they do believe the electorate is significantly more conservative than it is, and they also, I think, completely ignore their own role in determining what is politically possible among the electorate. Like Medicare for all would not be polling the way it was if it weren't for the fact that a prominent and well-liked politician was advocating for it for years, including Bernie Sanders. Like these people have a role to play in popularizing policy in addition to just following what they claim polls say.
Exactly. They constantly, it's a never-ending cycle. It's like Nate Silver acting like he's devoid of any ideology, but his punditry reflects a very clear bias towards the pre-existing system and neoliberalism. Whenever he talks about any of the aggregated forecasted results that he's talking about on his website, it's like the media tries to make it seem like the default position is neoliberalism, and the default position is actually infinitely more conservative than it really is. And so then they use polling data, and it's this Ouroboros of bad takes that then actually sway public opinion, and then they can turn around and be like, well, look at the public opinion. It's just more conservative than you think it is. Like, when in fact, if there's someone who's out there advocating for, like you said, Medicare for all, it very clearly people are think that that's a good idea. Because no matter how stupid we all are, and we are all hogs, and we are all stupid as voters, like voting is supposed to be transactional, and unfortunately, some people don't feel that way. Some people feel like, no, voting is about making concessions, and Democrats are this way. Voting is about making concessions to the Democratic Party that then end up making concessions to the Republican Party, whereas the Republican Party is never making concessions.
Yeah, and the Republican Party has, I guess, mastered a kind of politics where they're like able much of the time to direct their base to take positions that were formerly considered extreme, but at the same time, their base is able to police their legislators by actually kicking them out of office fairly regularly if they deviate from the right-wing platform. I mean, it's not exactly something that the left could emulate because it relies on funding supplies that don't exist, but it is certainly something to take note of.
Yeah. Absolutely. So this is something, unfortunately, when we're live streaming, there's a couple problems. I mean, there's 162,000 people watching right now, but they're freaking out in the chat about me running an ad. So I'm going to do that. And then also there's another take that that is just coming in. It's breaking news, I guess. But Trump tweeted claiming that he won. Well, I'll just read it out loud. We have claimed, for electoral vote purposes, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, which won't allow legal observers, the state of Georgia, and the state of North Carolina, each one of which has a big Trump lead. Additionally, we hereby claim the state of Michigan if, in fact, there was a large number of secretly dumped ballots, as has been widely reported. So he just threw that out there. Before I get your take on it, though, I got to run a 60-second ad break. I mean, you can continue with your take. I'm going to run the 60-second ad break for those who are unsubscribed. They won't be able to see some of it, but sucks to suck, everybody. If you want to avoid that, you can, subscribe with your Twitch Prime or your regular account, regular Twitch subscription. There it is. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it follows the pattern of officially declaring things on Twitter like that. I mean, I'm not sure if it's supposed to meant to carry some sort of legal force to say we officially claim the states. I guess one wonders if those tweets were drafted in consultation with a campaign lawyer or if he just decided to say them.
Yeah, well, the irony there is, of course, like with the case of Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is the Republican Party. I get very frustrated when people keep saying, oh, Donald Trump is not the Republican Party. This is not us. Demonstrably false, as he has picked up members in his coalition, right? To the tune that even I did not predict. I didn't see this happening to this level. But the Republicans, the Republican legislatures, for example, or people in county commissioners that are Republican, are operating in the way that Donald Trump wants them to, kind of. I haven't really seen a lot of pushback from those people. So when he comes out and has these sorts of takes, it's not just Rudy Giuliani that is defending him. It's the entirety of the Republican machine that is handling this sort of stuff. Lawyers and even legislatures. Maybe we haven't really heard from Republican senators too much, and I think that's deliberate. I think they're just sitting back, waiting to see how things turn out, so they can either wag their fingers and look like they're aesthetically on the side of democracy when they're not, or maybe even fully support Donald Trump. But I think ultimately this is how they're going to operate. They've been telegraphing this for months now, and they're doing it. They're doing exactly what they said they were going to do.
Right. And I think it's important for people to, when they see Trump and Rudy acting frankly clownishly, it's important not to just dismiss them as clowns, because what is actually happening is wherever Republicans have the power to try to steal it, they will try. And that could include places where they control the legislature or just places where they have. I mean, they didn't end up winning that Texas lawsuit, but the reason that they filed it was because they thought they had a shot to just disqualify 100,000 ballots, you know. And so they're going to keep trying. They're going to try whatever. They're going to throw everything against the wall. They're going to try everything. They're at no point will shame and decency kick in and get them to get good people who aren't Trump to stand up to him, because I mean, it hasn't happened yet. It's just not on the menu.
Don't you think that it was don't you think that there's a little bit of incompetence there too? I feel like they've gotten too comfortable cheating. And by the way, cheating is ingrained in the Republican DNA. Anyone who tells you that that's not true is a liar, of course, or just completely deluded. As Sam Cedar, Uncle Sam, always loves to point out, Paul Ryan was one of the people that also cast doubt on California being too late to count the election results, even back in 2016. And Paul Ryan is supposed to be the good kind of Republican, the one that fantasizes over
the normal kind,
the one that fantasizes over kegs at college campuses about, you know, destroying Social Security. So the normal kind of vulture Republican. So they always do this. They've always done it. Like Paul Weyrich has openly talked about all the way back in the 80s. These guys know that their pathway to success is by limiting the amount of people, specifically black and brown people, that end up voting. Maybe they'll change that strategy because Donald Trump seems to be doing a lot better with those same incompetently doing better, with those same communities. But so far, this is what the Republicans do always.
I mean, so far it has been comical, at least when you're not sort of cringing in horror, just because essentially what they did is they said before the election, in advance of the election, they said, tell you what, we're going to pull a Bush v. Gore. Like, just heads up, guys, we're setting all the groundwork for Bush v. Gore. Like, Bush v. Gore was like a surprise and a shock last time, but you shouldn't necessarily announce it in advance unless again, you're extremely confident that everything's going to break your way. Yeah.
And by the way, their confidence led to the incompetence, in my opinion. I think, especially with Texas, that's a great example where, like, if they had acted ahead of time, even the highly partisan judge in I think it was the 5th district, where even he was like, I want to do this. Like, if it was literally up to me, like, if I lived in a world where I could just do whatever I wanted, I would just say, purge these votes. Like, they're very clearly Democratic, but you can't do it when we've announced it. They've announced it since September, and 130,000 people have legally voted with their IDs and whatnot. You can't just, like, expect me to do this. He was like, I forget who said this, but he was basically like, you know, I want to do fascism, but you got to show me the work. And you're not doing that right now. You're not showing me the work, so I can't do it.
You gotta set the groundwork a little bit more carefully.
Which is, by the way, ironically, exactly what something like Roberts is looking to in the Supreme Court as well. Even though his opinion in this circumstance might not even his opinion in this circumstance might not even be important, because, you know, you got demons like Brett Kavanaugh and ACB. And of course, Clarence Thomas is going to go whichever way, always. He's going to go conservative always. So there are people that don't even care about showing the work, but I guess it's gonna come down to a few votes in the Supreme Court. Do you think that there's any shot that Trump could escalate these claims all the way to the Supreme Court and maybe strike down votes being counted currently? Like, that sounds insane, right? I mean, they're still counting it. They can't stop it. They physically have to stop it, and they can't do it so far.
I think I am still skeptical that would work with, you know, as you say, like, they're actively counting votes right now. It was easier in Florida to sort of pause a recount long after the election than it would be to try this maneuver right now. But I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, one little ironic moment is, of course, George W. Bush's team of lawyers immediately seized on the opportunity to declare partisanship in 2000 when Gore had the opportunity to pick counties that for a recount, and he picked blue counties when right now Trump's strategy nationally seems to be don't stop the count in Arizona, but definitely stop the count in Pennsylvania, specifically in the counties where Democrats are doing well, but don't stop the counts in Pennsylvania counties where we're doing well, which is fucking hilarious. It's like childish at this point.
Yeah.
How clear and transparent their attempts are.
Right. And it's like that they haven't had to try that hard in so long that they have just forgotten how to be plausible about it.
Yeah. Okay. So another thing I wanted to ask you, by the way, you can don't feel pressured to stay on for as long as you want to. I mean, I'll have you on for as long as you want to stay on, but if you want to leave to go back and write, that's also fine. But one thing I wanted to ask you about is your opinion on the Lincoln Project grifters, and then we can even take a look at the national exit polls that are just being released currently by the New York Times, which I can send you as well to take a look at.
Oh, I haven't seen those. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The Lincoln Party separated a lot of people from their money. I at this point, I think that it was just a failure, and I think that they were likely sincere in their claimed goal to bring over wavering Republican votes to the Democratic candidate. And I believe they were sincere in their effort to bring over wavering Republican votes to the Democratic candidate because it was part of a strategy of making the Democratic Party more conservative. But they failed. I mean, and no one in the campaign business ever has a real "you'll never work again" moment. So all of them, I think, continue doing consulting and things like that. But it's obvious that the snake oil they were peddling just didn't work.
Yeah, well, that snake oil was so closely aligned with the rhetoric that you heard from mainstream media, the rhetoric that even guided, I would say, the Democratic Party's outreach strategy, which is that there are millions and millions and millions of Republicans out there that are sick and tired of Donald Trump, and they're running away from the Republican Party, and they're moving into the ranks of the Democratic Party, when in fact, this was just an outsized representation of an otherwise electorally insignificant number of folks, unless we're talking about a place like Arizona where there were a lot of like John McCain fans, for example, that may have actually helped Mark Kelly win. But I think not enough of them if you look at the national numbers. Clearly,
what Democrats forget often is that Republicans are not popular, and especially the sort of Republicans who have become never Trump Republicans were not very popular Republicans. And I thought about the strategy during the Democratic convention when they would have, there are exceptions, I guess, like John Kasich was a fairly popular governor. But, like Meg Whitman or something was not a popular winning figure. And it really makes no sense to say, Meg Whitman's on my side. She didn't have a constituency. There were not Meg Whitman Republicans out there, and like, I think what we forget about Trump is that he's legitimately more popular than the people he beat in the Republican primaries in 2016.
Isn't that so fitting for the Democratic Party, though? They lose gracefully. Like, the Democratic Party is obsessed with like losing gracefully and maintaining the integrity of a system that keeps churning out results that absolutely obliterate them, despite the fact that like, if they were to try and truly advocate for progressive policies and maybe even combat the media rhetoric around it, that would definitely definitely turn against the Democratic Party. In that circumstance, like, they could be a lot more popular, but they don't do it. Because they love losing gracefully. As long as the integrity of the system is preserved, then that's good. That's a win for them, and that's why I mean funny.
They want to win 50% of the time. I mean, I feel like this is like, I feel like their ideal scenario is like, in every election, 50% of the time they win, and 50% of the time they lose to a civil Republican. All right, I'm going to get back to work on that note. It was nice talking with you. I'll be back again on soon.
All right, thank you so much. Where can they find you, Alex?
They can find me at newrepublic.com to see my writing, or just follow me on Twitter at @Pareene.
All right, cool. That was Alex Pareene, ladies and gentlemen. He's brilliant. He's awesome, and I'm very excited to have the opportunity to even have him on. So this is very cool, and I hope you guys people buy. That's a really cute one, dude. I love this emote. This is funny. Good job on that one, guys.